Brian was run over by a speeding car, and due to the severity of his injuries, the doctors couldn't do anything to save him. On his hospital bed, the dog used his last bit of strength to say goodbye to the family, telling them that they gave him a wonderful life and that he loved them. After his heart stopped, the doctors announced his death, leaving the Griffins drowned in tears and comforting one another. Upon returning home, Stewie threw the hockey net into the trash in complete helplessness. He thought that if they hadn't gone out to play in the street, Brian wouldn't have suffered the accident, and that if he hadn't destroyed his time machine himself, he could fix it to go back to the past and save his best friend. That gave him an idea. He went to the junkyard to buy the materials to rebuild it, but the parts had been discontinued. Without the technology, he had to accept the painful reality. On the day of the funeral, the sky turned cloudy and the cemetery was filled with acquaintances giving their final goodbyes. Peter went up to deliver the speech, deeply moved, while the attendees wept in silence. The whole family watched as the casket was lowered, forcing themselves to say goodbye forever to their faithful companion despite the massive void left in their lives. A month later, the sadness remained unchanged. Out of habit, Lois would prepare Brian's breakfast and Chris would cross the dog door just to remember him. Since the grief wouldn't let them move forward, Lois suggested adopting another pet. Everyone agreed except Stewie. The next day at the pet store, Peter and Lois were unsure which one to choose until a heavyweight breed dog named Vinny spoke straight to them. The hound introduced himself as a regular guy who would fetch any stick thrown his way, or if necessary, he would fetch cell phones and computers that weren't his just to convince them to adopt him. On his first night, Vinny won Lois's affection by taking charge of preparing dinner for everyone, and then he started chatting with Chris to gain his trust. Peter was thrilled with how quickly he adapted, so he took him to the bar to introduce him to his friends. After a few days, Vinny had earned the appreciation of everyone in the house except for Stewie. Stewie hated seeing how Vinny tried to take Brian's place, a spot that to him was simply irreplaceable. Stewie began to verbally attack him, attempting to intimidate him, but Chris stepped in to defend the dog. He was now his best friend. Later, Vinny heard crying outside the house and found a heartbroken Stewie. When asked what was wrong, the baby angrily confessed that he hated how everyone celebrated the arrival of the new dog, having forgotten Brian so quickly, who was his best friend. Hearing this, Vinny showed complete empathy and shared his own story. Before arriving with the Griffins, he lived with an elderly man in a small, low-income apartment. They didn't have money, but they kept each other company and were happy. When the old man passed away, he went through the exact same pain as Stewie until he met Peter at the store. Vinny explained that perhaps it was destiny that brought two wounded souls together to help each other heal. He wasn't to blame for Brian's death and didn't intend to replace him, but he loved the Griffin family and would never wish to cause them harm. It was time to let Brian go.